Greetings, my beautiful lovelies, it's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fermented, where I toy and experiment with things that are fermented. If you've missed the other episodes in the series, I will put the link up above and down below to the playlist where you can see other bubbling, fizzing things, including kimchi, and what else have I made that's fermented? Oh, sourdough experiments. But today I'm going to be making a beverage called Kvass. So Kvass is a fermented drink, and as a result of the fermentation process, alcohol is produced, but it is produced in such small amounts. It's about 0.5 to 1% alcohol. It's kind of similar to drinks like kombucha, where it is present but not high enough in amounts where it's considered alcoholic. So Kvass comes from the Slavic and Baltic regions of Central and Eastern Europe. It's been produced and consumed for hundreds of years, all the way back to the Middle Ages. Fermented drinks like Kvass and beer were safer to drink because they had undergone a fermentation process. Also, the fermentation process often requires the water to be boiled, killing many of the pathogens that were in the water. So it's interesting to think that fermented drinks like beer and Kvass were a safer means to get hydrated during the Middle Ages. Brilliant, right? So interesting. So today I'm going to be making Kvass, and the reason why I want to make it is because it's super simple to make, and it is made of only 3 ingredients: water, sugar, and bread. So there are many different recipes and techniques to make Kvass. Some use additional amounts of yeast with the bread, some use fruits, some use this kind of flour paste, lots of different recipes, some even use beets. Basically, we need some kind of sugar that needs to be fermented. We need a source of yeast. We can add additional manufactured or commercial yeast, or we can use naturally occurring yeast, which exists everywhere, kind of similar to sourdough. But today I'm going to use the simplest process. I love the idea of just using stale bread, water, and sugar to make some kind of beverage. So stinking cool. And in that sense, this is related to Pruno, which is the prison hooch or prison wine that's made in prisons using some kinds of sugar, Kool-Aid, ketchup, and then bread mixed together with water, allowed to ferment, and you got yourself some prison hooch. That is a prison recipe that I have not made. If you're interested in seeing that one, please comment down below. The recipe that I'm going to be using today I found from the Beets and Bones blog, and I will put a link down in the description. So the first thing you're going to do is take your bread. I'm using a very dark rye bread or pumpernickel bread. So place the bread on a rack and allow it to dry out. Some other recipes say that you can also toast this to get a really dark color. That will also make your Kvass a darker color. So after a day, the bread was very crisp and dry, and I cut it into small pieces, and we're going to need 2 cups of that. So bring 6 to 8 cups of water to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, you're going to take about 2 cups of that and add it to 1 cup of raw cane sugar. You're going to stir this up until the sugar is completely dissolved. The sugar water needs to be at 130 degrees or less. We don't want to add it immediately to the bread because it will kill the yeast. And the reason why we're using hot water is that the hot water will extract more of the flavor from the bread. Once we've added the syrup, we're just going to close up the jar, put it in a warm spot, and allow it to ferment anywhere from 3 to 7 days. Every day or so, you want to open the jar up and allow it to burp a little bit because carbon dioxide will build inside of the jar. It's been 6 days for me, and now we are ready to consume our Kvass. So we're going to strain it. I should also mention this is not the first time I've ever had Kvass. I had my first tasting of it, I believe, in my Emmy Eats Serbia video. I also had the Estonian version of Kvass, and it's called Kali, and that was in my Emmy Eats Estonia video, and I will put the links to those videos down below. So let's see how mine compares. Open up my container. Ooh, you can definitely smell the rye. It smells a little bit anisey. Kind of sweet. All right, here we go. Now this soaked bread we can save and actually use this as a starter for our next batch of Kvass. All right, I'm gonna have to get a second jar. Okay, I'm gonna seal this up and place this in the refrigerator because Kvass is generally consumed cold. Because this is not completely cold, I put this in the refrigerator, but it's not completely chilled. I'm going to speed things up with a glass of ice. So let's try it like that. I love that sound of cracking ice. It smells good. You can definitely smell the rye in there. All right, let's give that a taste. Cheers. Ooh. That is interesting. That tastes really different than what I remember the kale and the kvass that I tasted in the cans. It's just slightly effervescent, just a little bit. Actually, the kale I tried wasn't very effervescent at all, but it was much darker in color. And as I remember, it was called oftentimes Estonian Coca-Cola, because this was the drink of choice before colas and Coca-Cola and sodas and soft drinks invaded. So it's slightly effervescent. There's a little bit of tanginess to it. You can definitely taste the bread. The rye flavor is in there. It's a little bit anisey, a little bit kind of licorice, and it tastes of bread. And there's a bit of sweetness to this that tastes kind of caramelized. But the color is really different than the kale that I tasted. The kale was much, much darker in color. This is almost like a ginger ale in color. Not bad, I like it. It's actually really refreshing when you have it cold. The kvass that I had in my Serbia video was also very dark in color and had a similar kind of bready flavor, but it didn't taste as much like rye bread as this one. And the kvass that I had in the can, as I remember, was much fizzier than this one. And I've read that you can make this fizzier by adding just a pinch of commercial yeast to this about a day before you're ready to strain the bread out to give an extra little bit of carbonation. But I kind of like it like this. Just barely a little bit of bubble in there. This reminds me a little bit of kombucha. It's not nearly as vinegar smelling or vinegar tasting as kombucha. I love kombucha, by the way. If you haven't seen my kombucha video, I have a very old video on how to make it at home. I'll put the link above and down below. This reminds me of that a little bit because it has a little bit of kind of a slightly fruity flavor to it, but it's more tangy rather than being really kind of vinegared. But this has a very strong rye bread flavor to it. Very interesting drink, and when you ice it, very refreshing. So there you have it, homemade kvass or bread beer. If you've got some leftover pumpernickel or rye bread around, definitely try making this. It's really fun. And I love the process of fermentation. It's absolutely fascinating, natural, and alive. There's something about this energy that happens when something is fermenting. You can hear it fizzing. You can see the bubbles bubbling and gurgling. It's just absolutely delightful. Alrighty, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Check out the Fermented playlist. And yeah, like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! Kvass, 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 kvass. You knew it was coming.